Hey, what's up guys, it's EruptionFang, and I wasn't intending on making a quick review of this DLC as I haven't done it for any of the other ones, but I was kind of in the mood to talk about the third DLC, Bounty of Blood, that was recently released, and give you my thoughts on it as a whole and what I thought of it. This will be spoiler free, so don't worry about me giving away any major plot points or anything like that. I will just tell you what we already knew going in and what you could expect from the plot synopsis on the back of the box, so to speak. I will be talking about certain new gameplay mechanics and things that were introduced as well, so if you consider those things spoilers, then feel free to leave. Anyway, so as I said, Bounty of Blood is the third DLC for Borderlands 3, and unlike the previous two major DLC titles, this one has no connection to any of the characters, world, or lore that we knew about prior. DLC 1, Moxie's Heist of the Handsome Jackpot, reintroduced some lore regarding Handsome Jack, and had Timothy Lawrence make a return. And the marriage of Wainwright and Hammerlock of course focused on marrying these two characters we already got to know. But Bounty of Blood doesn't do that. No old characters return, we've never heard of this planet prior, they chose to take this in a direction that could have potentially been disastrous, but I think they absolutely nailed this DLC. And so far, it's my favorite of all three thus far. So the basic premise is that the Vault Hunters take up a bounty that was placed on this group known as the Devil Riders, and they reside on this planet of Gehenna. It's an Old West type setting with rackety shack buildings, rough environments, and generally what you'd expect coming from the setting of the Old West. So you come to this town of Vestige, and it becomes your job to save this town and everyone in it while putting a stop to the Devil Riders. I think what makes this DLC stand out over some of the other ones is the tone the main story goes for. Everyone knows that Borderlands is this crazy, wacky, funny game filled with laugh-out-loud jokes and moments, but for the most part, this DLC takes itself pretty seriously. It's a tale of revenge from many different characters and angles, and it really never strays away from that idea to try and get a quick laugh out of you. And I didn't realize that at the time, but it honestly did feel incredibly natural that it didn't even occur to me that the element of crazy wackiness wasn't in the main DLC story. I think that in part it has to do with the narrator who's constantly telling the tale of what you did. I think that in and of itself is so ridiculous as a concept that that's what keeps it grounded in what you sort of expected from Borderlands. He definitely is the funniest one in regards to the main story, but that is only with the main story. Side missions are much more traditional in how the humor is perceived, but I really enjoyed the tale of revenge and seriousness the team decided to go with. Something else that is incredible and honestly puts the core game of Borderlands 3 to shame is the artistic design they chose to go with. Things like the loading screen and the character intro slides, these look beautiful and uniquely stylized that it just embarrasses how simple some of the past ones have been. Something else I thought was beautiful was any of the buildings you got to go inside and fight. Particularly the bathhouse for me I thought aesthetically was really neat, but also interesting enough to fight in. They did add all new gameplay mechanics like jump pads, pretty much exactly like the ones from the pre-sequel, some mind control plants, some exploding plants, and a teleporting mechanic. And while all these things are cool in and of themselves, I found myself constantly forgetting about the jump pads, and didn't find the mind control plants too useful as there was nothing that wasn't immediately disintegrated by my weapons. And as for the teleporter, I frickin' hated this thing. There are so many areas of the map that are just sectioned off completely from everything else that you can only get to them with the use of a teleporter, and having to find this thing can sometimes be a huge pain in the ass because they're not marked on the map or anything. So if you wanted to go back and fight a mini boss, you'd have to remember which of these walls the teleporter was located at because there's just no clear, hey, this is where you teleport. I was just annoyed by it more than anything else. I hardly take it as a knock on the DLC itself and more of how stupid I am and easily get lost even with the inclusion of a map. Something else they really tried to sell you on is the new vehicle, and for me, it's pretty cool and I like the sound and feel of the new design, but there's still just no reason for me to use a vehicle as my guns are just way stronger and melt the enemies so much more faster. I just don't think Borderlands has ever really understood how to make the gunplay of the vehicle interesting. As for the guns and stuff like that, new legendaries were added back, some of which were classic Borderlands 2 Salvador builds. But if you ask me, everyone's got their own preference on the guns they use and which ones they find interesting, so it's really up to you to determine if the new guns are fun. Oh, and I forgot to mention my absolute favorite part of the whole DLC. There's a bard that sings tell of what you've accomplished, and he slowly adds more verses to the song as the DLC goes on. and I'm just a sucker for ballads. I loved this whole thing. It was so catchy and is a perfect representation to the amount of effort that went into this DLC. The story took a chance not relating anything we're familiar with in the Borderlands universe so far and chose to do it with a serious tone, which I think paid off. And if they're gonna go through the effort of writing a catchy ballad like this and animating an entire short knockoff Godzilla movie, then I would say this was the best DLC Borderlands 3 has released so far in terms of story, how it treated its characters, and the design of the overall thing. So hey, those were my thoughts. I'd say your money is well worth it here if you were deciding which one of the 3 DLCs to pick up. But if you want, be sure to leave your thoughts on the DLC below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Anything and everything, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video.